You're not lost, you're unfathered. That's the truth you've been circling, avoiding, distracting yourself from with late-night scrolling, self-improvement hacks, and the endless hunt for clarity from someone else. You keep asking yourself, why can't I figure this out? The real answer is this: because you're trying to live like a man without ever having been initiated into manhood. No inner structure, no internal authority, no father. I'm not talking about your biological dad. Maybe he was around. Maybe he wasn't. That's not the point. I'm talking about the archetypal father, the figure in your psyche whose job is to set the standard, to say, this is what we stand for, this is what we don't do here, this is where the line is. Without him, you drift, you defer, you react instead of respond. You keep waiting for someone to tell you who you are, and you're tired of it. You feel the ache, like something's missing, but you can't put your finger on what. So you chase performance, you grind harder, you stay available 24/7, you over-explain your boundaries, you shrink your truth so people don't leave. You run every thought through an invisible filter asking, will they still like me if I say this? Will I be accepted if I show up like that? This is the wound of the missing father. Carl Jung called it the father complex. It shows up when the masculine principle in your psyche, the one meant to guide, direct, and protect you, is either absent, weak, or distorted. And when that energy goes missing, a vacuum opens, something rushes in to fill it. Usually that something is either passivity or performance. You either collapse inward, passive, aimless, emotionally overextended, or you armor up and perform. You become a human resume, a polished version of who you think the world wants. You say yes too much. You people please. You stay busy to avoid the truth. You don't trust your own authority yet. And that's because no one ever modeled it for you. No one ever sat you down and said, here's how you hold yourself when things get loud. No one ever taught you the difference between ego control and grounded command. No one told you that leadership starts in silence, not noise. That power doesn't mean force, it means clarity. That the most masculine thing you can do is take ownership of your inner state. But how could they? Most of them didn't have that father either. So now we live in a generation of men who are emotionally drained, relationally unsure, and mentally fractured. Not because they're weak, but because they're running without a frame, without the father. What happens when the inner father is missing? You leak energy. You operate in survival mode. You turn every interaction into a silent audition for worthiness. You chase the approval of others, partners, bosses, followers, just to feel like you have a place in the world. You text back too fast. You apologize for your truth. You obsess over how your message was received instead of standing by what you meant. You soften when you need to stand. You perform instead of lead, and you know it. Deep down, you know this isn't it. You weren't born to orbit everyone else's expectations. You weren't built to keep hustling for permission. You were designed to take up space, cleanly, clearly, unapologetically. But no one ever told you how. So you turned that hunger inward. You started questioning yourself. You thought maybe something was broken in you. It's not. You're not broken. You're just unfathered. And that has to end today. Because here's the truth, you cannot move forward in your life if you're still unconsciously waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay. If you're still waiting to be seen, validated, or initiated by someone outside of you, then you've already handed them the keys to your power. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be aligned. You're not here to keep saying yes, so people don't feel uncomfortable. You're here to build a spine, not just a smile. And you won't do that by pleasing your way through life. You'll do it by fathering yourself. That starts by telling the truth. I'm tired of chasing clarity from people who aren't even clear themselves. You need an internal compass. And that compass is not your feelings. It's your standard, your structure, your sovereignty. That's what the father archetype installs. Not control, but containment. Not pressure, but presence. He doesn't smother, he steadies. He doesn't react, he governs. And you need that governing force inside of you, especially in a world where everyone wants your reaction, your reply, your availability. The reason you feel so drained isn't because you're doing too much. It's because you're doing too much without alignment, because there's no father in the throne room of your mind saying, this is enough. You can't coach yourself forward if the voice in your head is still trying to earn its right to speak. So the first shift is simple, but not easy. Stop performing, start leading internally. You do not need another motivational quote. You need to install the Father in your mind. You need to sit him down, name him, and give him authority. You need to become the man who tells you what matters and who doesn't flinch when the world disagrees. This is not about being tough. This is about being rooted. Because when you are not rooted in inner father energy, you fall for everything. You let your day be hijacked by other people's urgency. You let your mind be pulled by noise. You say yes to things that drain you. You ghost people instead of speaking cleanly. You confuse kindness with submission. Let's cut the pattern. You're not reacting anymore. You're responding. You're not chasing anymore. You're choosing. You're not dissolving anymore. You're defining. The next time someone tries to pull you off your center, stop. Take a breath. Hear the Father in you say, we don't move like that. The next time you're tempted to perform, pause. Let the Father remind you, we don't beg for belonging. It's time to rewire the voice in your head, from reactive boy to rooted man, from external approval to internal authority, from empty performance to embodied power. And that starts with one decision. You no longer move without the Father. You no longer move without the Father. That sentence isn't just a mindset, it's a commandment, a line in the sand. From this point forward, you're not here to hustle for identity. You're here to install identity. And that means reclaiming the Father archetype inside your psyche. Not as a myth, not as a theory, but as a function. Here's what that function does. It sets boundaries, it provides direction. It names your values, it protects your energy like it's sacred. Without that function online in your mind, you live wide open, emotionally, mentally, digitally. You give away your power in tiny transactions all day long. You respond immediately to texts. You read every notification like it's urgent. You explain yourself to people who aren't even listening. You edit your truth just to avoid confrontation. That's not kindness. That's chaos. You're not calm. You're collapsed. Look around. We live in a world full of men who've been conditioned to stay soft, stay silent, stay available. You're rewarded for being agreeable, quick to reply, emotionally available to everyone. But what you're not told is the cost, the fatigue, the leak, the erosion of self-respect that happens when there's no structure to contain your psychic energy. This is why you feel scattered, because you are. You're being pulled in 5 directions at once, and all because the Father hasn't stood up in your mind and said, enough. So let's name it clearly. Father energy is not about dominance. It's about containment. It's not about control. It's about clarity. It doesn't yell, it anchors. And right now you need to anchor, because if you don't, the world will continue to play you like an instrument through dopamine hits, approval loops, algorithmic validation, and endless requests for your time, energy, and attention. If you're always available, you're not a man. You're a utility. And the reason you keep feeling lost isn't because you're too emotional. It's because you've never learned how to father your emotions, how to contain them, clarify them, redirect them. Instead, you react, you vent, you over-explain, you collapse. That's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to stop. Because here's what happens when you move without the Father. You give your power to people who haven't earned it. You say yes to things you don't want to do. You burn out trying to prove you're a good man, a good friend, a good partner. You outsource your self-worth to how well you're received. And when you live like that, you don't lead, you perform. This is what Jung meant by the persona, the mask you wear to survive. Most men today are stuck in their persona, mistaking their social mask for their actual identity. But the Father archetype doesn't care about your mask. He's not interested in how likable you are. He's interested in how aligned you are. So here's the pivot. You stop measuring your value by how others respond. You start measuring it by how well you hold your line. That's what real masculinity does. It holds. It holds when emotions flare. It holds when others disagree. It holds when the world wants you to rush. Father energy says, we move slow, we move clear, we don't justify, we don't beg. That's the energy you install every time you pause before reacting. Every time you say no without explaining, every time you refuse to be guilted into urgency. You're not here to be agreeable, you're here to be anchored. Let's bring this down to earth. What does it look like in the real world? You stop replying to texts instantly. You stop being the emotional dumping ground for people who don't respect your space. You stop explaining your boundaries. You start protecting your morning. You start ending your day with silence, not scrolling. You stop checking your phone before checking in with yourself. Because every time you check your notifications before checking your truth, you put the world in charge of your identity. That ends now. Jung said, "What you do not make conscious will rule your life, and you will call it fate." You've been calling your exhaustion normal. You've been calling your people-pleasing kindness. You've been calling your anxiety the cost of being a good guy. It's not. It's the cost of being unfathered. So here's what you do instead. You install the father archetype in your mind as a filter. Every time something asks for your time, energy, or attention, you run it through this filter. Does this align with my values? Does this honor my energy? Does this move me closer to the man I'm becoming? If the answer is no, cut it. If the answer is maybe, pause it. If the answer is yes, own it. This is how you reclaim psychic sovereignty. You become the man who governs your own energy, not the man who reacts to everyone else's noise. And when you do that, something shifts. You start feeling powerful again. Not in a loud, performative way, in a quiet, grounded way. You stop seeking permission. You start protecting your peace like it's sacred. You stop chasing purpose. You start naming it. You become the father. You become the law. You become the one who says, "This is who we are, and we don't move outside of it." You lead yourself. From here on out, this is your code. I don't owe my energy to everyone. I protect my peace like it's sacred. I'm not reacting, I'm choosing. My time is not a public utility. I respond slower. I move sharper. I lead from stillness. This is the missing father, reborn inside of you. Not as a memory, as a method. Not as something you lost, as something you build. You don't need to go back and fix the past. You need to take authority in the present. You don't need to feel ready. You need to act aligned. You don't need more advice. You need more containment. Contain your time, contain your energy, contain your focus. Because when your life has no frame, everything feels like pressure. But when you father your space, you stop reacting to life and start directing it. Stop reacting to life. Start directing it. This is the shift. This is what is from running on emotional fumes to commanding your energy like it matters. Because it does. Your energy is not casual. Your time is not open access. Your presence is not a public park. You're not here to be drained and disposable. You're here to lead. Not just others, yourself. That's the essence of psychic maturity. Jung called it individuation. The process of becoming your whole self, not the fragmented pieces you've shown the world to be liked. But here's the part most men miss. Individuation isn't a mood, it's a discipline. It's structure. And without the father archetype alive in you, that structure won't hold. So what happens? You fall back into performance. You default to the persona, the version of you that's acceptable, polished, agreeable, the nice guy, the good son, the helpful worker, the chill boyfriend, the one who never makes things uncomfortable. But guess what? That persona is killing your power, because as long as you're living in it, you're editing yourself to survive. You're being agreeable instead of being authentic. You're being praised for being available while dying from lack of alignment. That ends here. Because you're not a product. You're a principle. And principles don't shift with the wind. Principles govern, they create order, they define reality. That's what father energy does. It installs principles that don't bend to every emotional gust. It tells you, this is your standard, hold it, not because it's convenient, because it's correct. So here's what you do. You stop performing and start leading yourself, not when it's easy, especially when it's inconvenient. That's the test. When someone pushes your boundary, hold the line. When you're asked to explain your no, don't. When silence feels awkward, stay in it. When urgency tries to pull you, slow down. That's father energy in action. You don't need to become aggressive. You need to become anchored. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more men who move from stillness. Men who know what they stand for, speak only when necessary, and don't flinch when things get uncertain. Let's get practical. You want to reclaim the father in you? Here's how it looks on the ground. Protect your mornings. Don't start your day by consuming noise. Begin with clarity. Write, reflect, breathe. Lead yourself before anyone else gets access. Don't justify your boundaries. No is a complete sentence. When you explain, you invite negotiation. When you stand, you communicate worth. Respond slower. Every time you rush a reply, you reinforce the idea that other people's urgency matters more than your rhythm. Say what you mean, not what's polite. Stop speaking for safety. Start speaking for integrity. There's nothing masculine about self-erasure. Block distractions like they're threats, because they are. Notifications, interruptions, energy-draining people, all of them chip away at your ability to think clearly, and clarity is your weapon. Claim solitude. Most men avoid being alone because they're afraid of what they'll find in the silence. Father energy embraces solitude because that's where you recalibrate. Slow your walk, calm your eyes, ground your voice. You don't need to take up space with noise, you take up space with presence. This is what mental sovereignty looks like. You are no longer the emotional janitor for everyone else's projections. You are no longer waiting for someone to recognize your value. You recognize it now. You claim it now. And you protect it like a father would protect his home. You're not doing this to prove anything. You're doing this because you're done leaking. You're done explaining your worth to people who never earned a seat at your table. You're done chasing clarity from people who are addicted to confusion. This is not about becoming hardened. This is about becoming whole. The Father doesn't turn you into a wall. He turns you into a pillar, strong, not stiff, clear, not cold, grounded, not guarded. So stop waiting for permission, stop performing as if your worth is a moving target, and stop confusing silence with weakness. Silence is power, stillness is direction, sovereignty is self-respect. This is the man you've been trying to become. Not louder, not busier, not more impressive. Just more integrated. A man whose external actions reflect an internal standard. A man who doesn't need to prove anything because his life already speaks. Your schedule speaks, your choices speak, your pace speaks, your presence speaks. And when the Father is alive in you, you don't have to yell to be heard. You just have to hold your truth long enough for the world to realize you're not moving. Let them adjust to you. You're not here to constantly pivot for people who refuse to stand still. You're here to establish the ground and invite others to rise. Because every time you abandon your standard to accommodate someone else, you betray the Father in you. Not anymore. Your new pattern is this. I don't move until I've anchored. I don't respond just to relieve tension. I don't give more than I'm willing to lose. I don't chase, I choose. I don't react, I respond with structure. This is not a motivational idea. This is a mental framework. And the more you live it, the more you realize. The clarity you were looking for in books, mentors, and motivational clips was always one decision away. The decision to lead yourself like a father. Because once the Father is in place, everything else follows. Your boundaries make sense, your purpose becomes clear, your relationships evolve or dissolve, and you let them. You're not here to perform, you're here to build. And what you're building isn't an image, it's an inner throne, and it's yours to sit on. Sit on the throne, that's the final shift. You've spent too long standing outside your own authority, waiting for someone to invite you in. Waiting for any favor, not we. You've waited for permission, for validation, for the perfect sign that says, now you're ready. But here's the truth. No one's coming. No one is going to knight you. No one is going to tell you, it's time to be a man. And no one is going to father you now. That's your job. From this moment forward, you're not the son looking up. You're the father looking inward. You have to father yourself. That means you become the one who holds the standard, the one who directs your path, the one who says, this is who I am, this is how I move, this is what I tolerate, this is what I don't. This isn't about being rigid, it's about being rooted. Because without roots, you keep getting pulled by the loudest voice, the fastest trend, the nearest need. You lose hours reacting to things that don't matter. You say yes to things you should never touch. You confuse movement with meaning. So, here's your wake-up call. If you don't claim authority over your life, the world will claim it for you. Look at your calendar, your screen time, your inbox, your relationships. They tell you everything. They show you whether the Father is alive or absent. Too many notifications, no Father. Too many maybes, no Father. Too many half-finished goals, energy leaks, and blurry boundaries, no Father. It's not a moral failing, it's a missing function. and you can rebuild it. But you have to act today, not next month, not when you feel more confident, not when you've read another book. Now, what does fathering yourself actually look like? It looks like writing your code and sticking to it. It looks like respecting your own word more than anyone's praise. It looks like saying no before you're tired, not after you've broken. It looks like turning down noise and turning up discipline. It's simple, but not soft. You wake up earlier, you speak slower, you move sharper, you rest deeper. You decide what matters and let everything else go. That's what the Father gives you. Permission to let go of what drains you. Permission to say, this is not my battle. Permission to protect your time like it's sacred. Permission to hold your center when people don't like it. Because they won't. Some people will flinch when you stop performing, when you stop replying instantly, when you stop folding your edges to make them feel comfortable, when you stop being who they trained you to be. Let them flinch. You're not here to be digestible. You're here to be whole. And wholeness requires subtraction. You cut noise, you cut guilt, you cut access to people who keep you stuck. That's what a good father does. He cuts what's not good for you. So ask yourself this: what have you been tolerating that your higher self would reject? Where have you been reactive instead of decisive? What boundaries are waiting to be enforced? What values are waiting to be declared, not someday, but today? Don't overthink it. Act. Text less. Train more. Scroll less. Reflect more. Complain less. Contain more. This is the energy you've been craving. Not hype, not hustle. Containment. The structure that turns your scattered power into aimed impact. And here's the part no one tells you. When you father yourself, the world starts responding differently. People respect your silence. They stop assuming you'll say yes. They start noticing your presence. They either rise to meet your energy or they leave. And both are wins. That's the hidden power of the Father. He doesn't chase, he calibrates. He doesn't raise his voice, he raises the standard. He doesn't prove his power, he holds it. And so do you. You hold it by staying on your rhythm, by making fewer statements and more commitments, by giving fewer explanations and more action, by expecting more from yourself and needing less from others. You father yourself by remembering this. You are not here to be pleasing, you are here to be powerful. Power doesn't mean control. It means clarity. It means choosing your path and walking it without apology. So no more waiting, no more asking for directions, no more living on borrowed standards. From now on, you write your own code. I rise early and protect my mind. I move slow, speak clear, and respond with power. I don't owe my truth an explanation. I am not led by noise, I am led by knowing. I am not waiting for permission. I am leading myself. I father my life fully. This is not a slogan, it's your starting point. And here's the final truth you need to hear. Men aren't weak, they're just unclaimed. Their energy is raw. Their presence is untamed. Their power is real, but it's scattered because no one ever handed them the tools to contain it. But now you have the tools, and more importantly, now you have the decision. The decision to stop reacting. The decision to start directing. The decision to stop dissolving. The decision to start defining. The Father is not something you wait for. He is something you become. So become him now. Don't just wake up tomorrow. Take the throne, own your rhythm, lead your mind, and don't move without the Father again.